All right, so we're doing a little bit of a long form video here today, and the reason for that is I had to be reminded of something that I was doing wrong. Not necessarily wrong, but in this case, it causes a lot of problems for projects when you do this with your drums. So when you're actually mixing an album, it's different from when you're recording an album. And while I was recording a friend's band, I was letting them hear the stuff while we were recording at a good volume because that makes the band feel like there's more energy, feels like you're playing with a live band as much as possible in a studio setting. But here's the thing. When you are actually mixing, you don't want the drums to be any louder than minus 10 dB. Yes, you heard me right. Minus 10 dB. Now, I'm throwing the 10 dB number out there to give you a good range to start with. Sometimes you might want to even start at minus 14 dB. And here's the reason why. So, as you're mixing the band, normally they start with kick and you start with bass. There's no real right or wrong way to mix. It's just kind of whatever your workflow is. For me, I start with the drums, I start with bass, I kind of get that set. But if you're starting with the drums loud, everything else is going to be loud. And it's cool when you mix down and you let the band hear this loud mix. But when you go to actually send this loud mix to a mastering company or you are mastering it yourself, you're going to find out the hard way it's going to be clipping. And it's probably going to be clipping a lot. In the project I was just working on, the first song I mixed for the band, I had the drum set at minus 14 dB. And when I had sent a version to the band, they were kind of like, man, yeah, it is quiet. Why is it so quiet? And I told them, because when it gets mastered, that leaves room for the mastering to bring up all of the instruments, to bring up the volume. I'm not going to say it makes it louder, but it does in my brain make it louder. So, but in that process, when everything's already loud and you try to master it, you're going to miss out on the benefits of mastering. And everything is just going to be clipping. And you don't want that. So, whoever is mastering it is probably going to have to take down the levels anyway, which eventually is going to cost probably more money on your part to get it mastered the way it's supposed to. Now, if you're doing the mastering, it's a nightmare because everything's going to be clipping. Every time you render that song down to an MP3 or a wave or whatever, and in Studio One, it shows you exactly how many dBs it actually went over where it's supposed to be. So it's clipping. And so anyway, the first song I did with the band, I started out at 14, minus 14. Well, the second song I did, I was sitting at around minus 8. And when I rendered it down to a wave so I could take it over and master it, it was peaking. It was clipping. So, and I thought, well, if it clips just a little bit, no big deal. Then I'll just fix it. No big deal. I can run there's a little limiter you can run that's a part of Studio One, but I rendered it again, and it was like going up to like over 3D of clipping, and I knew something wasn't right. So I went back to the original recording and noticed that I was mixing with the drums at minus 8 dB instead of the minus 14 I had done on the previous track. So I had to back up and do it the right way. Went back and mixed the drums out at about 14 dB And it was a pain because I had to go back and make sure that the guitars were the right level, the bass was the right level, the vocals were the right level. And it took me probably an extra hour of my time in mixing the project, this one specific song. So anyway, if you're new to recording, you're new to mixing, and potentially new to mastering, mastering has gotten a lot. I'd say it's easier to get your hands on tools to master than it used to be back in the day. There are a lot of cool apps that you can get that will make mastering your project a lot easier than it used to be. But if you're doing those things, you need to make sure you set yourself up right to begin with. So start with your drums nice and low, and then mix everything to the drum dB level, and get yourself started at the right dB level, so that when you send it over to be mastered or you're mastering it yourself, it's not a huge nightmare. So anyway, that is a lesson to be learned constantly. So you might want to write that down on a sheet of paper or whatever. I know that a lot of you that maybe watch my channel aren't into actually mixing and mastering your music or whatever, but those who do, lesson learned, and hopefully you learn it and save yourself some time, money, energy, pulling your hair out, or whatever. All right, take care. God bless. Bye.